welcome along to Kerry who makes these wonderful Kerry Scrubbies. I'm realising at this point I probably should take in the one off my sink to show you. But I'll post. Of course you got. Way.
I'm surrounded by half-made ones.
Amazing.
They're always around my machine.
Good.
Scrubbies are just taking over my life.
Good, you're covered in Hessian fibres.
Always.
Always covered. Good. So I was delighted to get in touch with you, Kerry, when I started the Eco Orkney shop. So we've not been going that long, and I just really wanted to provide some eco options for my local area. And you made these wonderful scrubbies with these beautiful patterns with amazing eco credentials that were handmade by yourself, and they are a big seller. They're constantly on the bestseller list for Eco Orkney, so that's pleasing to me and delightful that your product's so good. So I thought it would be really nice to catch up with you in person and just kind of have a little chat about how Scrubbies were born and a little bit about yourself, because I think it's really nice for people to see the human beings involved in these kind of eco projects. So yeah, if you wouldn't mind telling us a little bit about yourself, Kerry.
And it's wonderful for me as well because I spend my life in front of a sewing machine. So it's like, oh, there's a human being in front of me. So
good.
So about just under 2 years ago, I was in desperate poverty. We had so it's just me. I'm a single parent. With my son, I ran a little sewing business. I left my career in aerospace to raise my son when he was 1, and he's now almost 10. We just we got into the universal credit bracket. I worked full time and I just didn't make enough money to survive. We had to move house. And we just found week after week after week, we just got worse into poverty. And it came to the point where we had nothing to eat. We had no food. We had to use the local food bank. And there's nothing quite as leveling as crying on the floor of the church food bank. It is a real recalibrator in your life where you're like, okay, I have to do something different. So and it all started, a friend of mine, Emma, who runs the shop in the Scottish borders, she said, listen, if you can make a product that I can sell in my shop, I will wholesale it from you. And literally that's all it was meant to be, was one person who'd reached out, said, listen, you're struggling, let me help you, what can you make? And I just then started investigating the things I could make. Unsponges were the first things I looked at. But what bothered me was people make them reusable. And I was like, well, why can't you make them compostable? Like, you can make them out of plant-based materials. And then I looked into it, and things like, the ink they use to print the fabrics with. So then I had to source organic cotton that, where the ink had been tested for things like lead and formaldehyde and stuff that can be really detrimental to the environment. So the materials, the cost is staggering to get the best quality materials that are the best for the environment, that make sure that they're compostable. And I thought, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it right. I'm not cutting corners. I can't, say that it's an eco product. For me, if I can make it, if I can make it compostable, but I don't because of cost, that was just a no-brainer for me. So so I prototyped a few. I put them on my Facebook, and people were saying, wow, these, I love these. But then it took me, so from November, when I've made my first prototypes, it then took me until February to save enough money, and I only needed like about 100 quid to save enough money to buy the materials to make that first wholesale order. And it was a real, you're sitting with your 100 quid and you don't have anything. It's, it's a real leap of faith to invest that money and then wait a few weeks until because these fabrics are all custom printed by individual designers, design them, and then I get them custom printed. So you can't buy them in the shop. So that was a real leap of faith. And what am I doing? Is this the right thing? We're hungry, living on packet noodles. I went a few days without eating anything to be able to buy the materials. That's how poor we were, basically. And then I wholesaled to my friend Emma, she put it on social media, and it went crazy. So in the February, I did my first wholesale order, and then the following April, so 2 months after that, I did £7,000 sales in a month. And I was
That's
like,
amazing.
wow, yeah, just, and I didn't, so I make a point of not approaching anyone and saying, please buy my product, because people, you'll know yourself, you just get inundated with people saying, you don't really want to say no thanks. You know, I didn't have the confidence that my product, I loved it and it was the best that I could possibly make it. I would buy them, and I haven't used a plastic sponge for 2 years because I love them. So I knew that I liked them, but it's still a big thing to put yourself out there and say, you know, this is a product that's come out of my head. What do you think? And people,
Yeah.
especially when you come from nothing, you know, it's, your confidence is at an all-time low anyway. So yeah, and since then it's just grown, but it's grown organically. So because I've waited for people to approach me, and people share on social media um that they like them and tag you in, you know, Instagram and Facebook posts, and from there it's just, so I get new retailers, and I now sell them all across Europe, and I've had recent inquiries from America as well, and New Zealand. But yeah, they go Spain, Italy, Germany, Cyprus, Malta. Just, there's, someone sells them in Ibiza, which I think is cool. It's like,
That's great, isn't it?
I've never been to Ibiza, but I'm sure it's amazing.
Yeah, but your scrubbies have.
Yeah, so, but I didn't, you know, I have a real thing where I've got no interest. I don't believe that making one person rich is the way to do business or the way to run your life. So because my whole life was recalibrated financially, it teaches you what's important. So as long as I have a roof over my head and I have food, and we can, you know, not always, you know, my car needed an MOT and I have to panic about that, but not to the same extent. So it's not like I'm living a comfortable life, but I've got enough to survive. And there's so many people that don't have even the basics. So it was important for me to price them so that people could afford them. Because when I was very poor, being eco was a dream. I know we say, oh, it's easy, and you watch people saying it's so easy to be plastic free, and it's not. If you're fighting for time and trying to keep your family together and you're worrying about money, you know, with the best will in the world, being eco-friendly and thinking about your carbon footprint in the world is not easy. And that's another reason that you feel like you're maybe failing a bit. So pricing them, the retail price, you know, make them cheap, but make them
Yeah.
really good quality and make them better than what everyone else does. So that sells them, everyone can afford them, and make them so that they'll last for months.
Yeah.
And for me, that was really important. It's more important the product and the people who are using them and that people love them than me getting any kind of financial reward for them. And then it's important as well. So I've started doing a bit of work with the local prisons, but they're all in lockdown now. And then I'm going to set up a schools project as well, where, so my son's school, their eco council are going to do their own, they're going to design their own fabrics.
That's
And then
amazing.
I'm going to get them custom printed, and then I'm going to teach the kids all about how to run a business. So they'll get gifted their first wholesale order, and then they'll get them at trade price, not at wholesale price. So it'll be at zero profit to me.
Yeah.
And then they'll have to learn how, what they're going to, retail price is going to be, how to market them. And then when they make an income from their first batch, they then have to keep aside, you know, work at how much they have to keep, how much are they going to reorder. So I just become like a factory for these kids so that they can generate their own money for their own eco projects. Let's cut the adults out altogether. Let's just give the kids the means to make their own money. So we're just working on that. Over the next week or two, we'll have, the kids are going to design their own fabrics. We're going to get them printed, and that's, I'd love, if I had the time, and how I scale that up is a big thing, but I'd love to have that right across the whole of the UK, where schools can generate their own income specifically for eco projects through the
That's
kids, and what they
wonderful.
can do.
Yeah.
Yeah, that, so
That's
it's all, for me it's all about, okay, I've found a platform to generate some income. Who needs it? Do you know, it's not, I work for less than minimum wage making these, but I've never been happier. I feel like a millionaire because I now have, you know, this means of raising capital that can do amazing. I've got huge dreams of like rehousing
great.
homeless, and
Yeah.
just getting everyone, people who are in poverty, getting them their little businesses, because maybe they only need 100 quid to start something amazing.
Yeah.
So I'd love to be the catalyst that helped that happen. But it's quite hard. It's so frustrating when you've got these big dreams and you're like, faster, faster. But
I want to do
it's,
it now. Yeah.
it's only me. It's literally, it's funny because people contact me as if I'm a huge company. And I don't like to say, actually, it's just me in my living room, sat watching Netflix, sewing, and I work probably 14 to 16 hours a day. I quite often, if you get an email from me, it's at 2 a.m. when I'm sat in bed with a cup of tea, and but that's what you have to do. That's just, and people say that's not how you do business. You need to have time for you. But I'm in my element. I've been
Great.
given a chance to do something great, and yeah, and so hopefully after 2 years, I'm hoping that someone will come out of somewhere and say, I'm going to help you out, and
Yeah.
this is what you need. Because if you think about it as well, I've got no real business skills. This was meant to be a little thing between me and my friends. So suddenly you're projected into this world of business, and having to do huge amounts of accounts and all, which I do all myself as well. And then thinking about the future, well, if you go over like the VAT threshold, what? Hello, can anyone help me? I'm Googling it. I'm like, I don't know any of this. So, and then my pricing structure is all wrong. If you suddenly want to open a place where you employ people, you know, um, is there the pricing in there? All the business stuff that goes with it is just straight over. But and not because I couldn't understand it. I'm just flat out working all the time. What time's the school run? That's all
Yeah.
I'm
That's
thinking.
it. I know.
Yeah, and trying not to forget that my son is, especially after lockdown, where I'm so used to working to one time frame, and then suddenly school's back in, and my time frames have all completely switched now. So at least no one's bugging me for snacks all day.
There you go. Just send them out first thing in the morning.
Yeah,
Mine won't eat snack. It's the opposite thing. Like, please eat something. This is so busy. But that's amazing. You were saying like that you started from £100, and just like you were saying, there's been a time in my life where we basically had, maybe £10 or £15 a week spare. So going off that, would take you months
yeah,
and going without even the most basic of luxuries, to it's quite a big risk when you're in that position. That amount of money is, well, if for you it was a life-changing amount of money, £100,
yeah,
wasn't it?
yeah, definitely, yeah,
Yeah. And that
yeah,
was the eco shop started with a box. It was £100 as well, actually,
yeah,
of toothbrushes. And we don't have much spare either, and it was just, should I take this punt on a box of bamboo toothbrushes? And it just kind of
yeah.
does, doesn't it? Yeah,
It's a huge
snowball.
leap of faith. It's like, is this going to work? Do you know what I mean? Especially when you're poor, your confidence is so low. It's not the time to start a business. Really,
Yeah,
come everyone, see what, look at this
yeah,
thing I've created. It's the last thing you want to do, but yeah. So it really takes a certain kind of person to push through that and say, no, it has to work. I've got no choice. This has
yeah.
to work. So
And
yeah,
yeah, it was interesting you said there that you'd worked in the aerospace industry as beforehand. So
yeah.
then it was like I think people kind of think, when people experience poverty, that it's like you're born that way and
Yeah,
things
definitely.
happen. But
Yeah,
was
no,
that,
no,
yeah,
no. I used to work as an analytical chemist for an aerospace company. So I had a team of, I ran the department. I had a team of 6 people. Do you know, I'm in Mensa. I've got a really good brain, and that's what's so demoralising when you've got nothing and people. I phoned in just as I was going on to universal credit. I got a little bit of help my rent. Do you know, I don't live off benefits, but in that interim period when you're waiting for when you're switching on to universal credit, and I got left for 8 weeks with no help, without warning, and that was the big thing, is there's no warning. And I phoned into Jeremy Vine's Radio 2 show, and he was lovely, and we were chatting about how tough it was. And then this guy comes on after me and basically says, oh, if that women's business isn't making her enough money, then she needs to get a new job or something. It was so dismissive, and I think you sort of, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't when you're poor.
Yeah.
And you can really try and do something. And if it's, if anyone starts a business, they would expect for like a year or two for it not to make any money. But if you're in poverty and you try and start a business, people are like, well, do something else that's not working. There's no, I don't know, they have no tolerance of, even if you put in all the effort, they just want to not have to pay out benefits because obviously you're just not trying hard enough. And
Yeah.
it's really, really demoralizing.
Yeah. And you could do with a bit of leeway, but you get almost harsher.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
rules.
you really get on everything you do. But I find that quite a lot. Maybe it's like social media these days, but everything that you try and, if you have an opinion or a stance on something, either people disagree with it or it's not enough for some people. There's no happy. We don't just say, oh, it's great that you're trying. Well done. It's so harsh these days. It's so black and white, the world now, that, it's, yeah, I find it hard. Well, social media is great now because when you've got scrubbies and they're doing well, everyone's, that's great. But yeah, when you're poor, it's just a horrible place. And especially you see all these people like doing so well and so happy and on holiday, and you think, oh my God, how did I go? What's wrong with me? How have I got to, I'm in my 40s. How have I let myself get to this position? And actually, you're not there by choice. It's just the way life has gone. So yeah,
it's tough, that, isn't it? Like, I don't know, thinking that it's almost like an element of chance. I think we find that as humans quite uncomfortable.
Definitely. We like to think that we've all got the same opportunities, and we're all racing to get to the top of this ladder. And actually, some people have but most people have these huge obstacles. It's not a fair race, and success is measured in different ways. In April this year, I bought a wardrobe. I've not had one for 2 years, like a wardrobe to put my clothes in. Like, to me, it's like having a Ferrari to me. I close the door, my clothes are hanging in it. Wow, it was like life-changing for me. So I that to me is a huge success. But I wouldn't go strutting down the street going, I've just got a new wardrobe.
Did you put it on social media, like, ta-da, I've got a place to my own room?
Everyone knows everything. I'm suffering. Well, it's not so bad now. I've got a wardrobe. Yeah, everyone knows everything about me. So yeah, but you wouldn't go. People would see that and be like, so what? But to me, it's a huge success. So yeah, and I think we have to remind ourselves of that, especially as people in business, that every success doesn't look the same just because someone's driving a really fancy car. Especially if it's another single mum who's an entrepreneur, looks really successful and is dressed really well and like has had their hair done, which obviously I've not. That can knock your confidence, but we're not running the same race. We've got very different goals. I don't need people to look at me and see success. I feel it. I know. So when people are happy, or even when you get good feet and people say, when you say, oh, Scrubbies are one of our best sellers, like that. But that to me, that's all I need. That's why I do it. Is people like my products? They go and buy it, and when I print out postage labels, I'm like, oh, if I see Adele, if I see your name on them, I'm like, oh, thanks Adele, and I'm genuinely grateful to every person that buys them. And they probably don't realise they've just bought they've bought a scrubby. It's like, all right, just buy some scrubbies. But to me, it's like, it's liquid gold. It fuels me every day. Just makes me so happy. But I'm probably just easily pleased now, though.
That's great, though, isn't it? And I think that's something that COVID's brought around. And I know that, like, we come from a small area and we have like a high street and it's really struggled, and there was like a really good business development kind of group. And then obviously we've had no tourists, and the local economy's kind of been, very much just almost like an instant downturn. And I feel like you were saying about the measure of success, like a lot of businesses didn't have enough money in the bank to weather even 1 month of abnormal economic activity. So in terms of like sustainable business practices, it became so normal to run your business in that way. And then one small, well, it's not a small shock, let's be fair, one large shock, but it was a very short amount of time, wasn't it? That you know, and then I feel like this kind of more traditional model of business where I think it was, have you heard of the Tonys Chocolate Only? Like they do the anti-slavery chocolate bars.
No, I literally, I don't have TV, Adele, so anything could be happening in the world.
That's good. Well, I have it on the shop, so it's not something on telly, but they basically make chocolate that's like anti-slavery is their message basically. And I was reading through the report because they're open and honest, like kind of like your approach. And they said, you know, money is the means and not the goal. And I saw that just right after I'd seen your post that you put up about, you know, kind of your passion behind your business. And I think, I don't know, we've kind of forgotten that it's the means to achieve things that you want to achieve, and it's not the goal of like totting it up in the bank account to look at every now and then. If you're, I don't know, I certainly don't have that in my bank account.
No.
Good. And then you'd said,
what's happening in Orkney there, Adele? You've got the sirens going.
Oh,
Is that not like? I just thought that would be like, I'd be out looking out the window, like that would never happen.
Oh, is it anymore? We're on the ambulance, what do you call it, pathway? Like the hospital's just down the road, so I don't know what. We hear them quite often these days. So.
Sorry, I felt like I pulled your train of thought there. I apologize.
That's good. No, I was just saying, we were chatting just briefly before we hit record about how many Scrubbies that you thought you might have released into the wild. Yeah.
It's gone out there into the world. Yeah, I think I estimate, I mean, I have details of all of my orders and transactions, but I barely have time to do my tax return, let alone add them up. But I think I must be well over 30,000 sets now, which is, so I've made 60,000 Scrubbies because I make every single one. But I calculated in that given the average lifespan of them, it's probably about 500,000 sponges that I've gotten rid of.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that for me, I'd rather have 500,000 less sponges than 500,000 in my bank, which would make no sense to most people. I mean, if someone just gave me £500,000, don't get me wrong, I'd be like, I would have a marvellous time with that. I'd be very drunk. I'd be very drunk, and then I'd have a really stupid car. But you know, given the choice, I'm like, oh, that's so good. Like I did me on my own, little old me. It's just with no financial help whatsoever. You know, I don't even own a credit card. I have no, you know, I don't owe anyone anything. I'm like, wow, I did that. So
it's amazing. Really good achievement.
I'm really chuffed with it. Yeah, I'm very chuffed. And you know, it's because I do so many different designs, which people think is crazy. Why would you do 80 different designs? That's like, you know, even the cost of making sure you've got all of those fabrics in stock is ridiculous. Don't ever do that. If you make a product, don't do 80 different designs. But yeah, then people come back and they're like, oh, I didn't see that you had chihuahuas. Oh, I got an otter one. And then next time they come back, and I want people to come back and be like, oh, you know, pick a different one that they didn't get last time. And I like that. That's why I do the mix and match listing, which again is a logistical nightmare, because out of my 80 designs, pick any 2 and I'll send them as a set, which seems crazy to people. They've told me that, but I like it. If I'm going to buy them, I want, you know, I want to pick my own cute things that I want on the design. So
I must say, I love the chili ones that you just made to send out a special.
I think I might have put some in your.
Yes.
I sent you a part of your order today, and I think I put some chili ones in. So that was for the chili festival in Berlin. So again, they've gone at trade price because they run a project. My big brother runs a project, and they produce this hot sauce, but they get all the locals to grow the chilies within a radius of where the hot sauce is made, and then they buy back the chilies. So he wanted some to just raise some money for that. So I've sold him Scrubbies to go over to Berlin. They've gone for his, so he can raise some funds to help keep that, because that's all being eco, isn't it? People in flats, because these are people a lot of times in like apartments who have a little balcony and no garden, and it gets them involved in growing, and just I love it. I love that whole concept of just everyone, it doesn't matter where you are or who you are, giving everyone access to be able to do something to change. So yeah, I've got big plans for like community gardens where we grow veg, but we just like, you give it away, or you get local restaurants, what do you need, we'll grow it for you, buy it from us, kind of thing. Just all these, and just getting people involved.
Brilliant.
I want to have land with eco pods. I want to rehome all the homeless. Like, do you know, I'm gonna need a couple of billion, I think, to.
Yeah.
I want to readdress this balance of power in society, and sort of say, right, I don't like all this. Some people have lots, and lots of people have nothing. I'm going to try and change that, but yeah. So
Amazing.
that's why I'm sat here 14 hours a day watching Netflix, just making Scrubbies
Making
going.
tens of thousands of scrubbies. It's amazing though. Like it's like it seems so simple, but nobody had done it like the way that you'd done it. And I guess your chemistry background has like paid advantage to the inks and stuff. Like
I
you
hope so. Well, like,
understood.
yeah, I just the questions to ask then. Like the fabrics that I buy, like are they vegan, for example? So I ask this huge fabric supplier, and they're like, oh, we don't know. We've never been asked that before. So then they all go off and they then get vegan certification. They're like, yes, these are vegan. I'm like, oh, I did that. I like just
Yeah.
the questions to ask and about, because that's the only question about compostability was the inks that are used in it. But there's the same inks that you use in, like, when you print newspapers and things, exactly the same inks that they use. But yeah, but people don't question newspapers because they're not an eco product. But as soon as you make an eco product, that's what I mean about social media. It's like everyone then is on
How
you,
we go.
analysing you. Yeah, so I kind
Yeah.
of try and anticipate that. Right, what will people jump on my face about? About it when I say it's an eco product? And so I guess that was another reason for going with the very best materials, making the very best product. It's like, right, now no one can hassle me and say, oh, wait a minute, this, like the thread that you use. When have you ever questioned what threads someone uses in anything? Even if you get like a 100% cotton t-shirt, because the thread is not part of the main constituent fabrics, you don't have to write it on the ingredients list. So your thread on your 100% fair trade cotton t-shirt is most likely still polyester, but they don't have to declare it on there.
Yeah.
It so lax the rules. So I thought, I'm not here to try and see what I can get away with, but full disclosure, I'm going to use the best products. Ask me anything about them, because I wouldn't sell these if they weren't the very best. And I tell you what I'll do as well. I'll make them cheaper than everyone else does them, and then just you don't get hassle then. And I quite like a nice hassle-free life.
Yeah.
Where
I'm
people aren't
with you on that one. I know.
finding me, or like, because yeah, people do like to know things, and they will come and
Yeah.
quite rightly so. They'll come and quiz you. I'm like, right, if I just I'll cover all bases so that I'm right. I can be honest now. I can be open. You can ask me
Yeah.
anything. I've got nothing to hide. So
You
yeah,
know it inside out. And then
yeah.
so what gave you that kind of passion to go for the most environmentally friendly option? Because like you said, it would have been easy, and you had £100 to invest, and it could have been easy to kind of cut corners or go for
Yeah,
cheaper. So
because we're talking about, if you buy just organic cotton fabric, you can get that for like 7-8 quid a meter. Like, you can get it probably even cheaper than that if you just weren't really bothered. I pay like over 30 quid a meter for the organic fabric. That's the difference. So my profit margin could be massive, but yeah, I just think nobody else is doing compostable things. I'm like, you can't say that we can, and I don't want to slate anyone else's products that are reusable.
no, yeah,
I think reusable is great, but at the end of that product's life, it still has to go somewhere. And for me, sponges were a big thing because of the microplastics. So I think
yeah,
we can tackle global warming, and we can tackle, all these different environmental, how we get rid of like plastic bottles and all this. But microplastics is something you can't see. And that, I think, is going to be a long-term huge issue, that in the future, once we've completely saturated our water system with these microplastics, I think it's going to be a bigger issue than we anticipate. But yeah, I just wanted to be different. I looked at what everyone else was doing, and I make a point of not copying what other people do. Although I wish people would apply that same ethos when they're looking at my studies. If you're going to copy
you're onto
me,
something, don't you? When
yeah,
you get
if you're going to copy me, do it right. Don't, that's a big thing. I want to approach these people and say, no, if you're going to copy, but people won't because of the cost.
yeah,
So I can get this cheaper and I can get this cheaper. I won't do it. Even if I break even and I never make a penny, I won't compromise on the quality of the materials. And again, it's because you're very unprotected. I'm just one woman making scrubbies, so you've got to, again, it gives you some kind of protection out in the marketplace, because people will come and will copy or do their own version of what you're doing, right down to the name. I've had people doing the zigzags on them, you know, everything.
Yeah.
But that's what sets you apart, is people's inherent greed. is you know, it's got to be the very best quality product, with the best materials, and people won't copy that because they're not as crazy as I am and won't work for as little money as I do.
Yeah.
But I just, it's
yeah.
the environment is as important to me. This getting this product out, even if I have to give them away, getting scrubbies out and getting people off plastic sponges, which are so cheap and disposable. That's a, you know, that is really important to me. And I'm quite
Yeah.
lucky in that I'm used to being poor, so I can survive on very little. And I want to have the best. What's pride as well? Do you know, that's
Yeah.
my product that's going out there. The National Trust have just before lockdown, I signed all the paperwork. They want to stock them on their National Trust sites.
Amazing.
You know, how many women in their house making a little thing on their sewing machine? How many people's product is good enough to go into a National Trust shop? You know, that's like hardcore. That's where, you know, that's high end stuff. And you know, I just feel so proud that they didn't have to say to me, no, you're going to have to change this or change that. They were just like, yeah. In fact, when I went along for like the open day where you took your products, they took them off me. They were, how much are these? Like, they wanted them for their kitchen, and I'm just like, yeah, there's no better endorsement than that. That that people want them, regardless. They're meant to be professional, and they're just like, oh, otters, gotta have flamingos. And I'm like, yeah,
excellent. Yeah.
Everyone has a weakness when it comes to Scrubbies design.
I must say that's good. I have the sloths, I must say, on my on my kitchen draining board. That was my first word, sloth.
Do you know what's rubbish though? I have to use the rejects. So I get loads of them and I give them away to friends and stuff. But I'm always like, oh, I wish I could. I've got hundreds of them, Adele. I could just take a sloth.
Whatever
I could
one
just
you
take
want.
a fungus one. I can't bring myself to do it. I have to use the rejects. And I'm like, oh, I had to break this one. Oh, sharks. I don't really want sharks, but there I am doing the. And these are only Scrubbies, Adele. I've got more. I've got Chubbies to come, so they're a new product.
Brilliant.
And then I'm going to do things like makeup wipes, all the eco stuff that you get. I'm going to do it and do it compostable.
Awesome.
I'm going to, even face masks, I was trying, because I got compostable elastic and just the nose strips I have to work out. So I've been brainstorming. But I was going to, because of my lab background, I'm thinking, right, well, there's places that do, so if you come up with an idea for something, a concept, they engineer it and figure it out for anything, any kind of product that could come up. So I'm thinking, oh, I'll start getting in touch with these kind of these laboratories and stuff that, you know, come up with these concepts of materials and, you know, brand new cutting edge stuff. So I'm like, I'm just going to go right in there and phone the head of that lab and say, what have you got for me that's bendy that I can, you know,
use for that? Oh, that would be really good. Yeah, because like I have found one eco sheet mask, but the lining of the packaging has to have plastic inside.
So I do almost entirely, it's just that nose strip. And to be honest, you could take it out before you composted the rest of it. But up to that, I make them. But I was giving them away in lockdown, so I made about 250 face masks, and just was giving them to. There's people like biochemists that work in hospitals.
Yeah, like, ooh, what is this?
I get photos of them like all wearing their masks, and I'm like, yeah,
brilliant.
That's good. Yeah,
like a high tech, low tech product. That's pretty good.
Yeah, you go, Kerry, Scrubbies.
Yeah.
But even then, because I have a science background, so I was like, I didn't just find a pattern and make them. I was like, right, how do I make that? How do I do like maximum airflow disruption through 3 different layers of different types of fabric with weave size and the weave type, so the air can't just pass straight through it, and then putting in a non-woven layer, and then it's got to fit really well. Can I just say, if you're wearing a face mask, the air needs to go through the face mask, not through the sides of it. And it's really bothered me that people have these masks and they've got gaping holes there. it's completely defeating the object. It needs to grab the moisture. That's the so yeah,
Yeah.
I was adamant. And my auntie Jean, bless her, up in Edinburgh, she is a real critic of things. And she said my face mask was the best one out of the ones she'd had. And she
There
would
you
tell
go.
me that it was rubbish.
Yeah.
I was delighted. But again, I got asked to wholesale those by the 1,000 across Europe. So one company in Italy wanted like 4,000 of them. I was like, no, I've
Can't
got
do it. Yeah.
I'm a single mum. I want to send them a picture of my house going, really? You think I can manage that? No, I've got a tiny house. And now I've had to give up my office. So now I'm working solely from a little miner's cottage, 2 up, 2 down. Can't swing a cat in here.
Yeah.
So I like to talk a lot. I'm a waffler, so I
That's
apologize.
great. That's amazing. Thank you so much as well for, you know, agreeing to come on. And I just want to say, like, when people buy the Scrubbies, like, they're supporting like you and your business, but you've just given us like an insight into all of the other kind of social
Yeah,
benefits that you give back to your community. So
well,
when you're buying,
rest assured, you're not making. I am not getting. There's not one person. I am not getting rich off these. Do you know? I am not. And I don't really want to be rich, and I have no intention as I go forward of suddenly someone coming in who is just money orientated. I'd rather do it on my own. So, no, I
yeah,
redistribute it. That's I'm all about. You know, lots of people having a little bit rather than 1 or 2 people, because money's you only need so much. And then is it in Forrest Gump where this is the rest is for showing off, and it is true.
oh,
You know,
good,
you
yeah,
only need so much. And my mum always taught me that it's not what you keep for yourself that you should, not what you give away that you should be judged on, but what you keep for yourself. And if you keep too much money,
yeah,
then you know that's it's not a good way to live your life. So that's the Scottish in me, I think. Like,
there you go, yeah,
always got
that's
to help. You've got to help, right? I've clawed my way up. I've got myself to a safe little platform, and then you
yeah,
turn around and you're like, who else needs a hand? Who else needs? You don't just keep climbing. You stop and you look around and you give other people a leg up, because and anyone who doesn't know that is that's like the greatest thing in life. It's the most
that's
wonderful thing. Yeah,
brilliant,
you've missed the point of being alive
yeah,
if you don't help other people. It's selfishly it does more for me than it probably does for anyone else that I distribute my paltry amount of money too. But
yeah.
yeah, I'm getting rich on just feeling good here. So
That's amazing, yeah. And
oh,
those like other benefits like that we find hard to measure, I think, as a society, but
yeah.
you know, that are really positive for small communities and, you know, even larger communities. So thank you so much for taking time out of your day to talk about Scrubbies. And
Oh, you're
yeah,
welcome.
we're just delighted to have them in the shop, in the Eco Orkney shop as well. And like I said, they've been so popular. And yeah, it's just really nice to be able to, like you say, purchase something that's good all around, you know, eco for the environment, for people, for you know, just that whole spectrum of sustainability that's not just about making a pound. So
Yeah.
yeah, thank you.